Hi, and welcome. Today we're going to talk about something that affects millions of people around the world, yet many of them don't realize it's happening until it becomes a serious problem. We're talking about burnout. Most people imagine burnout as a state of complete exhaustion caused by working too hard. They picture someone who spends every waking hour working, studying, or chasing goals until they eventually collapse. But in reality, burnout is usually much quieter than that. It doesn't appear overnight, and it rarely announces itself. Instead, it develops gradually, often over weeks or months, becoming part of your everyday life before you even notice it. At first, the changes seem small. You feel a little more tired than usual. Your motivation starts to decrease. Tasks that once felt easy begin to require more effort. You become less patient, less enthusiastic, and less interested in things that used to make you happy. Because these changes happen slowly, many people assume they're simply having a stressful period. They tell themselves that everything will be fine after the weekend, after the next vacation, or after they finish an important project. The problem is that burnout doesn't usually disappear on its own. If the underlying causes remain the same, the symptoms often become stronger over time. Eventually, what started as ordinary tiredness can turn into chronic exhaustion, emotional numbness, and a feeling that you're simply running on empty. Before we continue, it's important to understand one thing. Experiencing one or two of the signs we're about to discuss does not automatically mean you are burned out. Everyone feels tired sometimes. Everyone loses motivation occasionally. However, if several of these signs sound familiar and have been part of your life for a long time, it may be worth paying attention. Let's start with the first sign. The first sign of burnout is waking up already tired. Have you ever slept for 8 or even 9 hours and still felt exhausted when you woke up? You open your eyes in the morning, but instead of feeling refreshed, you feel as though you never truly rested. The day hasn't even started, yet you're already looking forward to it being over. Many people assume they simply need more sleep, but burnout-related exhaustion is often different. The issue is not always the number of hours you spend in bed. The issue is recovery. Your body may be resting, but your mind continues carrying stress, pressure, and emotional fatigue. Over time, sleep stops feeling restorative, and waking up tired becomes your new normal. The second sign is losing interest in things you used to enjoy. Think about a hobby, activity, or passion that once brought excitement into your life. Maybe it was playing games, reading books, watching movies, listening to music, exercising, or working on creative projects. Now ask yourself when you last felt genuinely excited about doing it. One of the most common effects of burnout is the gradual loss of enjoyment. You may still participate in those activities, but the emotional connection begins to fade. Movies feel less interesting. Games feel repetitive. Music becomes background noise. Activities that once energized you now feel like obligations or simply something to pass the time. This emotional flatness can be difficult to recognize because it develops slowly. Many people don't notice it until they realize that nothing seems to excite them anymore. The third sign is that simple tasks start feeling overwhelming. Tasks that once took very little effort suddenly begin to feel much more difficult than they should. Replying to a message, answering an email, starting an assignment, cleaning your room, or making a phone call may seem surprisingly exhausting. What's frustrating is that you usually know exactly what needs to be done. The problem is not a lack of knowledge. The problem is a lack of energy. Your brain begins treating even simple tasks as major challenges. As a result, you spend more time thinking about what needs to be done than actually doing it. The longer this continues, the more overwhelming everyday responsibilities begin to feel. The fourth sign is constant procrastination. Everyone procrastinates from time to time, but burnout-related procrastination is different. It's not necessarily about laziness or poor discipline. Often, it's a sign that your mental and emotional resources are already depleted. You know an important task needs attention. You know the deadline is approaching. You know ignoring it will create more stress later. Yet every time you think about starting, your brain searches for an escape. You check social media, watch videos, organize something unimportant, or find another distraction. Afterward, you feel guilty for not making progress. That guilt creates additional stress, and the additional stress drains even more energy. Before long, you find yourself trapped in a cycle where exhaustion leads to procrastination, procrastination leads to guilt, and guilt creates even more exhaustion. If any of these signs sound familiar, don't panic. The goal of this video is not to diagnose you. The goal is to help you become more aware of what might be happening in your life. Burnout often hides behind everyday habits and routines, making it difficult to recognize. The earlier you notice the warning signs, the easier it becomes to make changes before the situation becomes more serious. And we've only covered the first 4 signs. The next signs may be even more revealing. The 5th sign of burnout is emotional numbness. Many people expect burnout to feel dramatic. They imagine constant stress, anxiety, or overwhelming sadness. But in reality, burnout often feels like the absence of emotion rather than the presence of it. You may notice that things simply stop affecting you the way they used to. Good news doesn't bring much excitement. Achievements feel less rewarding. Even moments that should make you happy seem strangely ordinary. At the same time, negative events may not trigger strong emotions either. Instead of feeling deeply upset, you simply feel disconnected. It's as if your mind has reduced its emotional activity in order to conserve energy. While this may seem helpful in the short term, it often leaves people feeling detached from their own lives. The 6th sign is increased irritability. Small inconveniences that once seemed insignificant suddenly become difficult to tolerate. A notification sound, a slow internet connection, traffic, or a simple question from a coworker may trigger frustration much faster than before. The problem isn't usually the situation itself. The problem is that your mental resources are already running low. When you're exhausted, even minor challenges require energy that you no longer have available. As a result, your patience becomes shorter, and your reactions become stronger. Many people feel guilty after these moments. They know they overreacted. They know the situation wasn't a big deal. But controlling those reactions becomes increasingly difficult when burnout is involved. The 7th sign is constant tension. Even when nothing is wrong, your body feels as if it's preparing for a problem. Your shoulders remain tight. Your jaw stays clenched. You struggle to fully relax, even during your free time. Some people notice frequent headaches. Others experience muscle tension or difficulty falling asleep. The body remains in a state of alertness for so long that relaxation starts to feel unfamiliar. This ongoing tension can become so normal that people stop noticing it altogether. The 8th sign is feeling disconnected from yourself and others. You continue participating in daily life. You go to work, talk to friends, attend meetings, and complete responsibilities. From the outside, everything appears normal, but internally, something feels different. You may feel emotionally distant from people you care about. Conversations become less engaging. Social interactions feel draining rather than energizing. Sometimes it feels as though you're watching your own life from a distance instead of fully experiencing it. The 9th sign is self-doubt. Burnout has a way of changing how you see yourself. Tasks that once felt easy now require significant effort, and that can lead to a dangerous conclusion. You begin to believe that the problem is you. You start questioning your abilities, your intelligence, or your discipline. Every mistake feels like evidence that you're not good enough. Every setback feels larger than it really is. But burnout often creates a distorted picture. The issue isn't necessarily a lack of capability. More often, it's a lack of energy. Even highly successful and capable people begin doubting themselves when they're mentally exhausted. The 10th and final sign is feeling guilty when you rest. This is one of the most overlooked symptoms of burnout. You finally get some free time, but instead of enjoying it, you feel uncomfortable. A part of your mind keeps reminding you about unfinished tasks, responsibilities, and goals. Even while relaxing, you feel as though you should be doing something productive. Over time, rest stops feeling restorative because guilt follows you everywhere. If several of these signs sounded familiar, don't panic. Burnout is not a permanent condition, and recognizing the problem is already an important first step. So why does burnout happen in the first place? Many people assume burnout is caused only by working too much. While excessive workload can certainly contribute, the real issue is usually an imbalance between energy spent and energy recovered. When stress continues for long periods without adequate recovery, the mind and body begin to struggle. Long working hours, unrealistic expectations, lack of support, financial pressure, and constant responsibility can all contribute to this process. Eventually, the amount of energy leaving your system becomes greater than the amount returning. That's when burnout begins to develop. The good news is that recovery is possible. The first step is allowing yourself to slow down. Many people try to fight burnout by pushing even harder, but that usually makes the situation worse. Recovery begins when you acknowledge that your energy is limited and deserves protection. The second step is simplifying where possible. Not every task requires perfection. Not every responsibility needs your maximum effort. During periods of burnout, focusing on what truly matters can make a significant difference. The third step is rebuilding your sources of energy. Quality sleep, physical activity, hobbies, time outdoors, meaningful relationships, and moments of genuine relaxation are not luxuries. They are essential parts of recovery. The fourth step is learning to set boundaries. Saying yes to everything often means saying no to your own well-being. Protecting your time and energy is not selfish. It's necessary. The fifth step is asking for support when you need it. Friends, family members, mentors, and mental health professionals can all provide valuable perspective during difficult periods. And finally, remember this. You are not a machine. You are not supposed to be productive every minute of every day. You have limits, and those limits deserve respect. If you recognized yourself in some of the signs we discussed today, try to be patient with yourself. Burnout does not mean you are weak. It does not mean you have failed. It simply means that your mind and body have been carrying too much for too long. Pay attention to the warning signs. Take recovery seriously. And remember that taking care of yourself is not a reward for finishing your work. It is a requirement for living a healthy and sustainable life. Thank you for watching, and take care of yourself.